Welcome to the world of sci-fi stories, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel. Enjoy the listening. They sent us a drone of hope. We returned with 1,000 warships. Elisa 42 is an orange kite star 45.6 light-years away in the constellation of Sculptor Unknown, equals no translation available. We are the unknown. Is anyone out there? That was the message from Glee of 42, the message the whole world soon knew. While no one could conclude its meaning, yet one thing became unquestionably true. The message was artificial, deliberate, and alien through and through. We are the unknown. Please respond if you hear. Along with it came geometric proofs and mathematical equations, while logic gates built up slowly into a linguistic foundation. It was a primer, a self-contained guide for interpretation. We are the unknown. We've looked up at the stars for so long, wondering if anyone was looking back. For every day that passes inside silence, it seems less and less likely, more and more certain that we are alone. It's been so long. If anyone's out there, please respond. This message repeats, hidden in the waveforms, was an image, the spectrum, utterly alien, yet its content was clear. It was a majestic winged being with what looked to be astronomical instruments strapped on their back, gliding under a star-filled night sky. Within a week, the entire scientific community split in half, then in quarters, then into 100 different factions, while politicians scrambled for appropriate action. 12 days, then the world fell into disarray. Firebombs met radio telescopes, and skeptics claimed a seat, while xenophiles paraded through Washington streets. Missionaries translated holy texts as the conservatives screamed heresy. Governments warred metaphorically and literally, competing for the face of humanity. Yet as patterns arise from turbulent flow in the chaos, eventually order did grow. It took 2 months for the birth of the response committee, half a year before a plan was approved, 405 days before investigations were completed, 2 years after the message first arrived. 102 radio telescopes aligned themselves toward Sculptor. In their views, Glee 42 shone true in a burst of radio waves, the largest transmission in the history of humanity, shot into the night at the speed of light. Its message was short, yet its meaning was clear. We are the humans. We are here. From there, humanity entered a new age. Reusable rockets propelled industry into low Earth orbit, then out to the moon, then Mars, and finally the asteroid belt. Thousands of PETA flop hours of AI analysis on the message revealed blueprints for advanced technology hiding in plain sight, groundbreaking physics theories encoded in the waveform, and quantum descriptions of impossible materials inscribed into the peaks and valleys. Within 100 years, human life had become interplanetary. 50 years after it first came, the message stopped with one final transmission. One day we hope to glide through alien skies alongside our cosmic brethren. Alongside you, we are the unknown. Message over. For the second time in history, humanity responded louder than ever before. Look up at the stars. We are here. The Sculptor rids, as humanity ended up calling them, would remain silent for the next 45 years. We are the unknown, calling from the cradle to the void. We hear you loud and clear. We never thought this day would come. Thank you. We hope this message finds you well. Recent developments on our side have been mixed. Be careful. We have found ruins of civilizations long lost, destroyed by an unknown force of great power. We have found them both in our own and in our neighboring star system. We had thought we were the only survivors of this unknown great filter. Thankfully, you have proved us wrong, and we aim for it to remain that way. We wish to offer our help in whatever way we can. Attached are all of our latest knowledge on this matter, as well as much more. We patiently await your response. Message over. It arrived exactly 91 years after the first response left Earth, woven into its waveforms more intricately than ever before, with the promised information on the fallen civilizations, as well as a gold mine of technical blueprints and scientific theories representing the latest in sculpture and innovation. They were quickly put to use. With the unnerving revelation came the corresponding chaotic scramble, as all over the solar system passionate debates rang out on the nature and presence of the threat, as well as appropriate action and response. Eventually, a message was put together and sent off. This is humanity. We hear your reply. We thank you. Sincerely for your warning and your offer in light of the possible threat, we would like to extend a formal alliance to your people. This would entail periodic transmissions on both sides regarding all developments, which we will begin starting now. If ever you are in need, we are here as the message traveled the 45 light-year distance, and scientists and politicians began putting together knowledge and cultural exchange packets. For transmission, many people couldn't help but wonder who else, if anyone, had heard the original transmission. The sculptors hadn't stopped with their reply. A steady stream of transmissions had kept coming, just as humanity kept sending their own. What followed was over a century of mutual one-way conversations and news broadcast. At first the transmissions had been largely scientific and diplomatic, but after a few years some cultural exchange began to seep through, and soon enough it was as if the entire internet was being sent over the transmissions, save for some select topics. Of course, it only took a decade for the world in general to really warm up to the sculptors, and another for interstellar news to become a fact of everyday life. Human literature was being translated by the thousands. Each day, entire museums where 3D scanned movies began to be shot in extended spectrum, and alien narratives quickly flooded the fiction market underneath it. All, however, the sense of unease remained. It was the same unease as when humanity had first debated whether to respond to the original message. It was the unease of being faced with the unknown and unlikely yet possible fates of what could happen to us hanging over every action, except no longer was us merely the human race. The sense of consequence of what one had to lose had extended to include humanity's new allies, their new friends. What if the universe wasn't a lifeless void, but rather a dark forest? We are the unknown. Recent effort have uncovered a plethora of artifacts from the lost civilizations. Scans and notes are attached. We have been studying the possibility of sending one of us to your star system for a face-to-face meeting. It is a tantalizing thought, the ability to communicate in real time, not to mention the promise of alien worlds to see. Unfortunately, the technological and resource requirements, specifically the energy needed to accelerate a man-missed to traverse 45.6 light-years in a reasonable time frame, was deemed to be yet out of reach. However, we are contemplating sending a drone with technology samples and as much information as we can fit in it. Message over. We are the unknown. An unmanned drone has been sent your way to arrive. 16 years after this message, in the fringe case, it fails to decelerate prior to arrival and poses a risk to any of your population. We have included a self-destruct mechanism, the digital key, for which we have attached to this message. Also included on the drone are cryogenically frozen biological samples. Be extremely careful with them. On another note, we have included several pieces of literature with this message. We hope you find them to your tastes, or at least that they offer fresh perspectives. If not, then we apologize. Message over. This is humanity. A manned mission does sound like an incredible prospect to us too, but as you said, it is simply infeasible at this time. Perhaps one day it will be a dream come true. It wouldn't be too surprising, especially at the pace we have been progressing with, much thanks to the technology you have shared with us. Our first interstellar mission has just departed from Mars orbit towards our closest stellar neighbor, Proxima Centauri. It runs on sculpture-designed fusion drives and would not have been possible without the contributions of your people. We'll be sure to share our findings when it arrives in 23 years over and out. This is humanity. Thanks for all the books. They were a big hit. We hope you liked ours as well. We have just heard back from the Proa mission. They have located several future terraforming candidates, as well as a plethora of rare resources, including mines of several stable transuranic elements. It seems like room temperature superconductors will soon become the new trend. We're planning several more missions for colonization and further exploring Tone and Rydal Chorus, the two main binary stars. We're also investigating possible approaches to sending a manned ship to your star system based on your transmissions. Our industry seems more robust than yours. No offense, perhaps because of our greater integration of AI automation. We'll keep you posted. Over and out. This is humanity. We have received your drone. Our scientists are quite stunned by the first tangible piece of alien technology and alien life to ever fall in our hands. and they can't thank you enough. Our biologists are too busy to formulate a reply, although the general consensus seems to be that your microbes are so different from ours that cross-contamination is impossible. Furthermore, several pieces of technology have proven to be instrumental in forwarding our plans for a possible manned mission, especially when combined with our software and production capabilities. The day that we finally meet might not be so far off. Over and out, we are the unknown. We hear your offer of alliance, and we are grateful that our relationship can now be official. We will continue our periodic transmissions, and we're glad to be finally hearing more from you. We will redouble our transmission frequency in light of this development. Recently, there have been several breakthroughs in research on what we have called the Great Filter, the unknown force that left civilizations as husks. Advances in linguistics brought on in no small part by exposure to the hundreds of languages possessed by your people have led to new interpretations of numerous artifacts. What we have found is that in the case of every civilization, the end is marked with a new star in the sky, followed by descriptions of some world-shattering event, often depicted as a meteor. Either way, we have attached all our findings to this transmission message. Over, we are the unknown. It's great to hear your progress. We have to be honest, never in the past 100 years have collective spirits been so high. Some had even tried to call off the transmissions, saying we were screaming into a wall. Not so much anymore. This is a very welcome upgrade from the silence we were faced with before, and we certainly don't plan on breaking it anytime soon. And the literature you've sent has been making a big impact in a positive way, so really thank you for all of this message. Over, this is humanity. We see that you are receiving our transmissions finally. Your literature, stories, artworks, and all of that have become very popular over the past century. Of course, when this message reaches you, it would have been another 91 years. In any case, Project Pathfinder is underway. It will be a single antimatter-powered ship capable of completing the journey to your star system in just 72 years. We have started production of the antimatter using Statites, stationary satellites held up by solar radiation pressure around the sun. It is the goal that in 15 years, through bootstrapped energy production and an aid-driven replicators, we will have a small Dyson bubble of statites producing enough antimatter to support the mission. Over and out, this is humanity. The antimatter is coming along nicely. Construction on the ship itself, the New Dawn, has started. If everything goes according to plan, it will depart 12 years from now. Hell yeah. We're coming. Over and out, we are the unknown. Your discovery Proxima is incredibly lucky. Our first interstellar mission returned with just some rocks and microbes. The microbes were really useful, though. Anyhow, room temperature superconductors should be a massive boost to your industrial capability, which we are hearing is better than ours. It seems you are right. How this is possible, we don't know, but our engineers are jealous. A main mission, though. Do your people really think it can be done? Don't get us wrong, we want to believe it, but it seems a bit too good to be true. Message over, this is humanity. The Dyson bubble is progressing faster than we predicted. While New Dawn is meeting some difficulties, we're thinking of converting the excess statites to a laser-based power delivery system, using those hyper-efficient designs you gave us a while ago. Anyways, over and out, this is humanity. Hello, we've not received any transmissions for the past week. That is highly unusual. Not much we can do, though, and we trust you'll sort it out. Anyways, we will continue transmitting as usual. Over and out, we are the unknown. Do not respond. We repeat, do not respond. Cease all transmissions until further notice. It had been 17 years since the first message arrived. The entire world stopped to watch the news feeds. Business people turned away from the holographic projectors that had been from alien tech, focusing their attention instead on the pop-up that appeared at the periphery of their vision, courtesy of their neural implants. Integrated reality. Gamers paused their games, taking place in recreated landscapes from Glee 42 as their friends dragged them to the 3D display broadcasting the transmission in the game lounge lobby. Readers put down their sculptured novels and opened their favorite news platform on their window displays. It had been 13 days since the transmissions had fallen silent. The same transmissions that had been a constant for their entire lives We regret to inform you of an unfortunate development. To be straight, 2 weeks ago, we were targeted by an aircraft attack. Multiple of our observatories had observed a seemingly random star undergo an inexplicable increase in brightness by several orders of magnitude over 2 days. It was like a new star had appeared in the sky. It didn't fit any of our cosmological models. That was because it wasn't a star, it was a tungsten rod accelerated to 0.999996 C. We know it was tungsten from the debris cloud that now surrounds the cradle. 1/5 of our population never made it off the planet. So what has come out of this? For one, we have determined beyond a doubt the nature of the great filter. The attack originates from a star of 108 light years, which is exactly half the age of our very first call into the stars. If that does not speak of intelligent malicious intent, we don't know what does. On another note, we still stand. The estimates for the kinetic energy involved vary from the 10 to the 26 joules range in extinction level. The vent by all means, yet here we stand. The cradle may be shattered, our people may have lost something irreplaceable, yet we stand, and we will continue to for however long we can. So why are we telling you this? We know you can't do much, nor can we ask that of you. Instead, we are sending this message as a way of saying goodbye, as we are being forced to fall silent once more. We will still attempt occasional updates. Our only regret is that we never got to meet face to face. Even as I speak now into the transmission terminal, your transmissions are playing in the background, going on as if nothing was amiss. They bring a measure of peace, and normally in these times, we can only try and treasure them for as long as they last, until this message reaches you, knowing that elsewhere life continues on. So please look after your people, and last of all, thank you for everything. Message over. And for a while that was the final message from Glia 42 for the second time in history. An interstellar message split the world into two. This time, however, people weren't arguing on if something was to be done. They were arguing about how much could be done and how to go about doing it. Calls of save the skulls clashed against avenge. The alien scientists dug up old ambitious plans for Project Pathfinder, while national militaries devised plans for Dyson bubble-powered super weapons. And just like the last time, the world eventually came together under the instinctual human drive to protect those that were thought as one of us, and the sculpts, distant as they were, fell firmly in that category. The first breakthrough happened a month after the final message, after countless telescopes had been trained on the star outlined in the transmission. One advantage of having access to a Dyson bubble was the ability to create an array of millions of small telescopes into one massive aperture capable of resolving the most distant details. Humanity had shifted seamlessly into a state of Cold War. Soon an invasion fleet was identified along with their capability, and course two things were determined straight away. One, the sculptor rids had almost exactly 68 years before the invasion fleet arrived, after taking light delay into account. To no matter what the sculptor thought, they didn't stand a chance in their current condition, and they couldn't produce any significant military technology. However, humanity could. It was the first point that immediately captured everyone's attention. The original New Dawn had been designed to travel at a peak speed of 0.7 c to arrive in 72 years. If they could just increase the number of ships and shorten the time frame, scientists, engineers, and financial firms came together to put together a plan. The ships were not a problem, but there wasn't nearly enough antimatter for both accelerating so many ships to a decent speed as well as decelerating them afterwards, and antimatter was still incredibly inefficient to produce. What the humans did have, however, were solar sails, really efficient lasers, and a Dyson bubble. And so the innovating scientists and conniving military engineers came together and proposed the most ambitious project in human history: the rapid construction of a nickel Dyson beam. 12 years later, 172 spaceships drifted on an elliptical inclined orbit at a distance somewhere between the asteroid belt and the orbit of Jupiter. A few of them were command ships, some were utility ships holding hospitals or field production facilities. Most of them were carriers designed to haul payloads of fighter craft over interstellar Distances, all of them, were aligned precisely with their back end pointing. Dead on to the sun, all of them contained hundreds of hand-picked volunteers. Sleeping in cryopods reminiscent of a particular old sci-fi franchise, they were delicate constructions with massive tanks of antimatter attached to highly radioactive and highly efficient engines, while a tensile structure of cabling vanishing into the blackness of space dragged the rest of the ship far behind. Massive radiators would dissipate the waste heat from their powerful engines. At the very end, a mirror protected the rest of the ship from the lasers used for the outgoing acceleration, with coordinated precision laser sails unfurled like parachutes. From the head of the ships, they were 100 kilometers across, each easily eclipsing the ships themselves, with a final confirmation laser modules around the sun lit up one by one from Earth. The event was completely unspectacular besides a small red glow on one side of the sun as the lasers dumped waste heat into their giant radiators from the ships that themselves. The awake crew watched as the sun became the brightest star in the known universe. By absolute magnitude, for 1 light year, the fleet accelerated at 1.5 grams to a maximum velocity of 0.92 c. As the lasers finally shut off, the laser sails were released to float free. The ships, with the utmost care, began their flip maneuver, with the sails stripping the electron from neutral interstellar particles. They became umbrellas protecting the ship's vulnerable profiles, while powerful magnetic fields parted the shadow of positively charged protons left behind. The ships would spend the next 18.74%. Meanwhile, the universe in front of the ships would play out and fast forward as the fleet shot towards the incoming light. We are the unknown. This is a progress update. Rebuilding is underway, but going slower than we would like. Our people are recovering, but we're all hurting here. Regardless, hope remains for the day that we will get out of this mess. Message over. Embedded in the waveforms was an image of a sculptor. They were perched on a metal framework, alien-looking tools grasped in their mouth, a half-assembled structure in front of them, while sparks in the background highlighted rows after rows of similar workers laboring away on their job. This sculpted, however, was looking up at a starry night sky, seemingly lost in thought. Whether it was of the future or the past, no one knew. This is humanity. We're coming. The first rotation of the awake crew whispered silently, we are the unknown. This is a progress update. We've established a new supply chain with New Nest, our colony, in our neighboring star system. We've started training advanced AI algorithms based on your guidelines to speed up the rebuilding process. The cradle remains uninhabitable, but recovery efforts are taking place. Message over. An image of a sculpted perched at a balcony, some sort of drink in their front claws. The scene was backdropped by a field of alien skyscrapers, neon lights glowing in unfamiliar spectrums, while winged forms flew under a great metal lattice that made up the sky. New Nest. The image was labeled, just you wait, we're coming. We are the unknown. This is a progress update. We've just received your transmission describing your plans for an antimatter-powered ship. We trust after receiving our notice you have turned it in the opposite direction. On another note, the AI algorithms have failed dramatically. They keep self-terminating after we begin to feed our own training data relevant to the current situation. Message over. An image of a desolate alien landscape with a jagged horizon of black scorched mountains, while cooling lava pooled in dim red pools. Without referencing historic archives, there was no indication that the scene used to be filled with lush vegetation, while a gleaming city sat in the distance 5,000 kilometers from the impact site. The attached description read, hold on, we're coming. We are the unknown. We have visuals on the approaching invasion fleet. They'll reach New Nest before they arrive at the cradle, so that is where we plan to make our stand. We've begun production and testing on warships based on your designs. We've never had to build one ever since our last large-scale conflict over 3 centuries ago. Message over. An image of a patchwork vessel seemingly put together from scrap parts scored from civilian vessels. Halfway there, we're coming. We are the unknown. A week ago, we received your last transmission. The silence is depressing. For hundreds of years we have looked up at the stars and seen possibilities in the future. Now we just look up and see loneliness and death. On another note, the invasion fleet is around 7 years out from New Nest. We've been able to build 36 warships so far, much less than we hoped for, but we have faith. The brightness of the deceleration flare worries us, however, for now. We will go silent. Message over a group of sculptors standing under a radio telescope, wings raised in a traditional gesture for farewell. The telescope was pointed into the night sky. A particular star was marked out among the hundreds of others. Goodbye, brethren, and fly high. The caption read, "No, we're coming," with 2 years shipboard time left before deceleration. The sixth rotation of the awake crew received a transmission unlike the previous. This one was identified as a broadcast not targeted towards any particular star. Also unlike the previous, the pewter identified it as coming from the sculptured colony of New Nest rather than the cradle, and unlike the previous, there was no message attached. It was a simple, steady pattern. It was a distress signal. It lasted for 5 days shipboard time before it suddenly ended sometime after the ships began their 10 grams deceleration. As the crew began to come out of cryo, another broadcast was received, this one from the cradle. It was the brightest transmission the fleet had ever seen. It would be easily visible to every radio telescope all the way back on Earth. We are the unknown. Our recorded history stretches back 7,000 years, and over that time we have looked at the stars first with apprehension, then wonder, and then for the longest time with loneliness. Then we did something bold. We called out, "Whoever is out there." You may have heard our first call 3 centuries ago, and despite all of our worst nightmares, someone answered our call. For that too brief period of 200 years, we looked up at the stars with joy. Now we look up in despair, for we look into our death. The universe is not a friendly place. There are dark forces hidden among the stars that will end your existence the moment you make them apparent. We have come to realize that is what will happen to us by the time you hear this message. We will likely no longer exist. As I say this, they are crossing the final light year into our system. We have nothing left. The transmission fell to static for several seconds before starting back up with a C. I am attaching with this message as much of our culture as we can, I hope. Crackle. I know that our memory will live on to one particular people out there. You know who you are. I'm sorry it had to end this way. We tried, we really did. I just wanted to see the day that we would meet. Static. We have been the unknown so long. And farewell. Message over. Attached to the message was the image of a sculpted wing spread gliding away from the viewer and into a siren sunset. The transmission operator flipped the switch that sent out the broadcast and slumped back in their perch. That had been their third attempt at the message, and they had considered starting again, but they couldn't do it. The script sat on a screen next to the transmission console. The second half of it, never used. They had considered just sending it as plain text, yet they couldn't bring themselves to do that. Either way, it was over in both meanings of the phrase they had known. This day would come. They didn't show it in the transmissions, but they had known the moment the size of the invasion fleet had been revealed. Now they just perched in front of the transmission console and cried. It was the screeching cry of bird song, for sculpts couldn't shed tears, but it was a mournful cry just the same. Sometime later, as the transmission operator remained perched in their spot, a console beeped somewhere. They shut it off without bothering to check it. Another console beeped more urgently. This time, frustrated, they shut it off one more time, but before walking to the exit to the radio control center, looking up into the currently starry sky, they paused. There was a new star in the sky. It was a brilliant blue-white hanging somewhat close to a particular constellation that they recognized by heart, for they had spent the first half of their time here. Pointing the array in its direction, they sighed dejectedly. What's this? Another kinetic impactor, another invasion fleet. It would have to be one impressive force. If the exhaust flare was that bright, then the transmission console cracked to life with a language they never thought they would hear again. With a start, they turned away from the exit and scrambled back in front of the console, replaying the signal over and over until they were sure it was real. The message was short but clear. We are the humans. We are here.